So we have Photoshop open, and I'm going to go to File, Open, and I'm going to go down to my USB drive because that's where I put my pictures. And right now I'm going to click on this image, check mark this image, and this image because these are the three we're going to be working with today. So as soon as they all open, we have this image that we're working with here. So what I am going to do to select out the background of this image is going to be going up here, and I'm going to click Select Subject. Select Subject is automatically going to choose what it believes is the subject of this picture, which is pretty close. It's a decent selection on a deer. I'm going to press Ctrl+ to zoom in. Okay, so we have this so far. Now, I want to get rid of the rest of this background. The way I'm going to go about that first is by getting the selection closer. So if we continue to zoom in, you can see there are a lot of areas in between these ears and other parts that have also been selected. So I'm going to go and using this right here, which is the quick selection tool, I'm going to go and try and get some of these parts unselected. Right now it is selected on minus, which means it is taking away from the selection. But if you look, sometimes it takes away a little bit more than I would like. So I can click plus and add back to the selection. Now, as you may notice, this is not an exact tool. So we have some other options as well. We have the polygonal lasso. The way the polygonal lasso works is that it makes straight lines as you click. So if I click here, it makes a straight. If I stretch my mouse out and click here, it makes another line. Same thing, and then once we connect, it will unselect an area if it is on this setting. This setting up here is to unselect from an area. You can tell because there is a square and a chunk of it is taken out. This one is to add it to an area selection, and you can tell because they are overlapping. You can also tell if you hover your mouse. You can also tell if you hover your mouse over it for a sec, it will say add to selection. And this one is taking away from a selection. This one is for overlapping selection. So if I make a shape like this, it will only do the sections that intercept with one another, that overlap. I'm going to press Ctrl+Z and undo what I just did because I want to try and select this deer. So I am on this, which is the subtraction tool for selections, and I'm going to take away some of this selection to try and get it a little bit cleaner in between these antlers and stuff. And it doesn't have to be exact at this point. We can still do some more tweaking if necessary. So can click around and get close to, even if not exactly on the antler, just a little bit closer to it to make things simpler. Okay, so we've gotten a little bit closer. I'm going to do part of the antlers now too. Like I said, I'm not going to be overly precise with this selection because I have a plan for what to do after. The way that the subject selection tool works in the first place is that it examines colors of pixels and tells how different they are, and it just automatically selects what it believes to be a single object within a picture. So let's just keep clicking around here. Okay, so that is a decent enough selection for right at this moment. What I'm going to do to finish making a selection is going to be click on this layer. Okay, now that we've done this much of a selection, I am going to right click and click Make Work Path. This is because I'd still like to be able to edit my selection in pixels, or I'd like to edit it in a vector. So if I click that, it makes it into a bunch of points. And if I go over to here, work path, we can click this. Click the little flag button and it will make a selection. And I'm going to delete that little middle one. Okay, so the reason why, if we look up here in this properties menu, which if you don't have it already, you can go up to window, click on properties, and then apply to menu. You can change the density, which is the level of visibility for that selection. You can also change the feather, which will make it like a soft fade on the edges, depending on what you are doing. So now that we've made that, we're going to use our old friend, the pen tool, and you can see all of these points since we have made it a work path. So I can click on this and make a new point. Now that I've clicked on it, I'm going to control click, move the mouse down, oops, and you see all the blue dots. Blue dots means that they are currently selected, so all of them move downward when I move down. So I'm going to press Control Z and undo that. And now I am going to unclick on the mask, then re-click on it. Okay, now I can see that I'm only selected on this single blue dot right here. And I'm going to press Control plus to zoom in a little bit. And I can move this down here by control clicking on it. If I simply click on it instead of control clicking, it will subtract the point. And if it subtracts the point, it'll make my lines weird. So I'm going to press Control Z and undo that and make another point right here. Now I'm going to control click and move this point inward. I can also select these little handles and I can move it outward to make this part of the selection more accurate. So we can move this around and make these portions of the selection more accurate too. Take that, and when I'm doing this, what I'm actually doing is holding down Control and clicking at the same time. So we move this down, and there. We click here. By control clicking, we can move it inward. Now that I want to move just this little handle, I can also alt click. If I alt click, you can see my pointer turns into a little upside down V shape. That means the only things it's going to select are going to be handles. So it will only be able to select these handles. If I begin moving these and they're moving both in tandem, let's say I like this curve, but obviously when I click that, it's going to also capture this. The way I can move the handles independently is by holding down Alt, clicking, moving it in. And so if I Alt click on a single handle, it will only move that one. So Control click, Alt click. And so from there, you just have to move around the points. I don't like that there are 2 points here because one of them is extra. And I'm going to click minus right there because I don't like the location of that point. I clicked minus again. And you can tell when the mouse is hovering over these spots, it does turn into a minus symbol. So we can go and manipulate these lines. And because I've left the opacity on even at a lower capacity, I can click back onto this side of it, which is the mask. I can increase or decrease that density, so then I can see exactly what's going on underneath there instead of having to have it be a complete mystery of what's underneath there. If I miss a horn or something like that on this deer, I can tell what's going on underneath and I can just adjust it accordingly. So this is always the option once you have finished making your actual selection. You can just finesse and finish off the whole thing using points. You can also use the, there you go. We also have the curvature tool, which you can use too. And in some cases, it may be simpler to use the curvature pen tool than a regular pen tool. So the curvature pen tool is going to shift both sections of line at the same time. If you notice, when I move this point, it also moves down the other point on the line. So this will affect the other segments of line. And in some cases that can make things easier, and others it can make it more difficult. If I double click on it, it turns it to a curved line. If I double click again, it will turn it into a straight line. Some people find this more simple to use than the pen tool. It kind of depends on what your purpose is for using it. In some cases it's a lot simpler. In some cases it'll make it take longer because it's easier to just manipulate the handles and move them around instead. And this is really a fundamental thing for all aspects of Photoshop, is making proper selections. That's always going to be one of the #1 things. It's going to be one of the #1 giveaways for people who have photoshopped their pictures online or anything else, is that their selections are done improperly, or they did not make selections at all, and then other parts of the picture are affected and it looks awkward. So holding down Alt, moving that around. And so we have this little segment taken out here. So if I click, I can just start making a little selection inside of here. And then the last line, I'm going to hold down and pull with the mouse and bring it up that way. And if you click at random in a space that doesn't have anything and then begin making a shape, it will make a cutout from that shape. If you click the minus button here, you can take that section out. So whenever you're on a point and you're hovering over it, let's say like this little shape, you see my cursor turn it into the pen tool with the minus, you can just subtract those points away. And that happens automatically. So right now I'm not selected on a line, so I'm going to have to control and click. And I'm going to move this segment down. Same thing goes for this ear. And I'm going to zoom out, pressing Control minus here. Okay, and let's look at how my deer is looking right now. So I'm going to move that up a little bit. Okay. It looks like the rest of it is pretty well selected, so I don't think I need to make any major alterations. I can see this spot here is a little bit on its tail. Oh, I need to finish the horns. And I'm going to click the minus sign, because I can do with less points. Okay, and let me click. Right now both sides are selected, the picture itself and the mask. So I'm just going to select the mask right now. The menu pops back up. I can turn it up to 100% and see how the background is gone. All right, there you guys go.